Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming up tonight, and welcome to today's special council meeting. We're glad to be here in Combermere and looking forward to some good discussions. At this time, I would like to remind committee members and members of the public in attendance that all committee and council meetings are recorded. Please note that these recordings may capture comments made during meetings or in breaks or recesses. Recordings will be available to the public on the municipal website. This meeting will be live streamed. Please mute all electronic devices during the meeting. Thank you.
Questions about this? Will not be.
Oh, sorry, that's right. There's this normally we live stream, but we won't be, but it will be on YouTube at a later date. Probably tomorrow, right, Brittany? Yes. So it's just not live tonight. The special meeting today, this is the purpose of the meeting, is to receive the consultation summary report and concurrence request for site selection C8616, the full mixed roads for proposed Rogers 90 meters telecommunication communication tower. And I hope that I've got everything out of me now, and we'll move into the First Nations land acknowledgement. As we gather today, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community, we're meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of the land for thousands of years. So I've asked for an adoption of the agenda now. We do have an amended agenda. The recommendation is that the special council meeting agenda for November 27th, 2023 be approved as amended to add correspondence from Nick Schulis and Dana Blosser. So I need a mover and a seconder on that. Councillor Schulis, seconded by Councillor Olszewski. All in favor? And that's carried. I would now like to ask council, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest?
None.
None here. Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we will move on to delegations and presentations. And just before we do that, I would just like to remind people that this is a meeting of council. It's a special meeting. We're privileged to be here tonight, but we do have certain rules and procedures that need to be followed, and we will be following those. So I ask you to use respect to everyone. And when we get to the question period, we will have a mic available for questioning. We ask questions one at a time, and we'll be asking you to identify yourself and where you live. But first of all, we'll go to, I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Eric Belchamber, who is with Rogers and has been the lead on this project.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you much for having me. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to come to these special council meetings to learn more about the proposed Rogers Tower on the next road. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that will help identify some of the reasons for the rationale behind the proposed tower and its location. And will include some information and some coverage plots, and we'll go through it. And at the end of it, we will be in a position to
I think you maybe speak a little more loud. Okay.
to
That's fine.
answer questions.
Thank you.
Sorry, we can't hear you back here.
Yeah.
Fine, you're not very Is this any better?
Much better.
Perfect, thank you. So in terms of the agenda for the PowerPoint presentation, we're going to be why behind the Eora Cell Gap project, its details, some of the search criteria and co-location opportunities, an aerial image of the proposed location and a newly revised location. I'll show the site plan of the original location, some photo simulations of the new location, and follow it up with some of the rules of the federal and municipal governments. So as you're aware, Rogers is proposing 90-meter tall guide communication towers part of the Eastern Ontario Regional Network Cell Gap project. And the objective of this proposed tower is to improve service in the congregate area in Madawaska Valley. It's important to note that cell towers are like puzzle pieces of a very complex radio network that work together to fill the gaps and spread signal to put overlap. So the placement of towers is very precise, and we don't want to have areas of coverage deficiencies or areas of coverage overlap. A key benefit to advanced wireless networks is the ability to accurately determine a user's geographical location, in particular in emergency situations when facing 911 calls. And it's vital technology in today's day and age. The Eastern Ontario Regional Network Cell Gap project is a $300 million public-private partnership. Rogers is providing $150 million of funding, and federal and provincial governments are each contributing $70 million, and municipal governments are contributing $10 million. The objectives of the project include making sure that 99% of the population in Eastern Ontario can at least place the voice call, that 95% of the population can use at least standard definition in terms of video calls, and that 85% of the population has high-speed access. It's important to improve safety, it's an economic driver, and it's comparing Eastern Ontario with the next generation networks. We're looking at building essentially 265 new towers and upgrading 300 plus towers through the area that are already in service. There are a great deal of benefits to enhance networks, things that include access to healthcare, monitoring virtually. Things like heart monitors, cardiac monitors, blood glucose monitors. Businesses rely on being able to stay connected. Education in terms of being able to participate virtually, which we experienced in the past couple of years with COVID. Agriculture, infrastructure, and forestry are also key drivers that benefit from enhanced networks, along with security. When siting a tower, we do try to be sympathetic to the surrounding uses, and you take a bunch of factors into consideration, including expected usage patterns, local topography and building types, interaction with the existing and future sites, as it forms a huge puzzle. Line of sight requirements for high quality communications, opportunities to co-locate on existing structure, the availability of a willing property owner in any given search area, and our commitment to high service standards and customer satisfaction. So in this particular instance, we did receive comments relating to the aesthetic impact that a tower would provide in the area. They've been provided to the township, and the close of public comments was November 5th. Rogers is constrained by the search areas of each of the cell gap project sites and the availability and willingness of a property owner in any given area. And the funding agreement with our funding partners prohibits the siting of towers on ground land based on a whole host of factors. So despite the availability of ground land throughout Eastern Ontario, we are unable to place towers on ground land.
Can you elaborate on that? Why?
The funding arrangement that we have with the federal and provincial governments precludes placing a tower on ground land. There's an abundance of private property in the areas that we rely on to place our towers, and it's simply part of the funding agreement we have. On the map shown on the screen is the search area circled with yellow. The red areas are data taken from the municipal property assessment corporation that show where people live, and these are the target areas that the Eora Cell Gap project is put in place to improve servicing. The area in general is challenging to work with based on the mountainous terrain, topographical challenges, and various other natural features like wetlands and water courses that would preclude the placement of the tower. This map shows the existing towers that are in service in the area. The first tower on the left, identified by the letter A, is a 90-meter tall tower. It's unfortunately 8.5 kilometers from the search area, which makes it too far for us to be able to meet the objectives for this particular site. The blue icon identified by B, the middle one, just north, already has garages and tenants on it. And the far bell tower identified by C is unfortunately not tall enough to allow co-location to provide a full service improvement in the targeted area. That's why we were relying on putting a 90-meter tall tower that will service between 6 to 8 kilometers based on the topography and terrain in the area. So this was the this map shows the yellow pin at the very top, identified by C8616. That's where we initially proposed placing the tower. Based on feedback from adjacent property owners, we have looked at shifting it about 100 meters south on the same property. And according would still remain a significant buffer of tree area. The only portion of land that would be cleared would be along the red lines, 10 meters on either side. All of the rest of the trees would remain, and we would use the existing access from the next road going south. Next slide. Based on the discussions today, we had looked at shifting it not only 100 meters south, but an additional 60 meters further west, close to the road. And the setbacks are identified on the right-hand side of the slide. Essentially 107 meters from the northern anchor to the property line to the east. So from the top anchor across, it would be 107 meters. It would be 50 meters on the western anchor on the far left to the road.
Excuse me, Eric, you wanna hold the microphone here? There we go, that's good.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Just gonna go up and shoot them. Because they were fan on them.
So we're pointing at the yellow pin at the center of the 3 lines. Is 200 meters from the property line to the east. So all of the trees along the eastern property line on the subject property are remaining. There is no intention on anybody's part to clear cut any of that land. We would simply use the existing access coming down from the road to the tower and along the guy anchors is what would be cleared. 10 meters on either side, that's to prevent any trees from falling on the guy anchors. This identifies the coverage that currently exists in Madawaska Valley. So you can see that the blue locations identified by the counter here and above to the right. That is where there is excellent service, and then it grades as you get further and further away from the tower itself. I've got a red arrow pointing towards where CV616 is proposed, and as you can see, there's currently an enormous flow in service. Now, there are also other proposed towers that have been acquired and granted useful occurrence to the east and north, 8707 further north, 8618, and then 8702. This is the coverage that the 4 towers would provide, and you can see that it provides a continuous area of service to make sure that people can face phone calls and that in emergency, that we can use them for work, for business, and stay in contact. I was on site on Tuesday and took some additional photographs to have our rendering specialist position the tower in the photographs that I took. Vantage point number 1 is in the top northeastern corner of the area. Identified is where the point was reported. That's vantage point 1. Vantage point 2 is further south on the full road. Vantage 3 is across the road, and vantage point 4 is at the tree line. So this is what the tower would look like from roughly where the sits.
Pardon?
It's unfortunately cut off at the bottom of the
Oh,
shoulder.
sorry, this is the 346.
So this is from the corner of the property looking west, roughly 346 kilometers from the base of the tower before the additional 60-meter strip further away from the trees. This is the vantage point from the full road. You can see that the tower is where the red arrow is. You can see what the front of the full road by the tree line that is on the full road. Next. This is from essentially the property across the road on Mixed Road. You can see that it's tucked in well into the forest, virtually invisible from the existing trees. And during the summer months, where there are the leaves of the trees, it will be further obscured. And again, these positions are before the additional 16-meter strip further west. This is from the driveway going down from Mixed Road. Again, it would be 60 meters further into the trees, further concealed by the foliage. And what I've done here is taken a look at a similar example of an existing tower and tried to take similar vantage points from various points in the road that both the same distance, roughly 280 meters, to show what an existing tower looks like. To give you a sense as to the fact that this is not an unusual sighting of a tower. As you can see from the vantage point, roughly 280 meters from the tower itself, it is behind these trees and concealed completely by the foliage. So, no. So the viewpoint number 1 is from the north. The viewpoint number 2 is from the south. And viewpoint number 3 is directly in front of them. So this is looking south. The tower is on the left-hand side behind the trees.
What road is this? The boat?
This
Oh, very favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next one. This is looking north towards where the tower is. It's behind the trees on the right-hand side. And then this is looking directly at the tower from the road itself. This is the survey or site plan of the original proposed location before shifting it 100 meters south and 60 meters further west. And as you can see, the leased area on the left-hand side, the bottom left-hand of the screen, shows the 10 meters on either side of the guy wires. That is the leased area, and that is what would be cleared of trees. Bear in mind that we're now moving 100 meters further south and 60 meters further west. Innovation Science and Economic Development Canada is responsible ultimately for the approval of all telecommunication towers in the country. And it requires Rogers to review this with the public and the local municipality or the land use authority. And after reviewing this proposal, the Township of Madawaska will provide its position to ISED and to Rogers in the form of either concurrence or non-concurrence or conditional concurrence. And with that, the presentation is.
Thank you, Mr. Beltran. At this point, I would like to move into delegations and presentations. Perhaps we can move the microphone into the audience.
So it won't reach, so people will have to come up here this week.
Please speak. You can see how temperamental the mic is. Please speak directly into it. And our first delegation is Nick Schulis.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I believe just for quality purposes of the call, there was going to be the option for the letter that I had issued to the council to be read on my behalf. But if not, I can do the reading if it's coming in clearly and loudly.
Yes, Nick, I'm here. It's Sue, and I'm glad to read your letter. I just wanted
Okay,
to,
thank you.
before I read into that, Nick's letter was inadvertently omitted from the agenda, it was missed, and has been added as an addendum to the posted agenda.
Thank you.
My wife and I have recently been informed that there is a proposal for a Rogers communication tower to be erected on this road in Palmyra. This is disheartening to learn and also very concerning as we own neighboring property to the proposed build site of the tower. We would like to make it known that we are in absolute disagreement with the proposed site for a Rogers communication tower at this location. We are even further troubled by this proposal as we have not been notified of the property owner or Rogers that these plans are currently being developed. We would appreciate the planning departments and your attention to understand our concerns as landowners in the township of Madawaska Valley. As part of the corporate strategic priorities published by the Township of Madawaska Valley, there is a 5-year roadmap for the Township of Madawaska Valley. And it states the vision for Madawaska Valley is a healthy, growing, environmentally sustainable, and culturally rich community. As long-term community members and now landowners investing in the immediate area of the proposed site, we believe in and support this vision for MP and in the strategic priorities that guide it. Under open communication and governance, one of the strategic priorities in particular is for open communication and governance, in which the township has committed to open and transparent internal and external communication to provide meaningful opportunity for residents to participate in democratic process. To date, we have not received any formal communication of the plan from Rogers or from the property owner of the proposed site. The request to allow a delegation to be present and heard on the day that a Rogers representative appears at a municipal council meeting so that the community views are considered and recorded. Under healthy and sustainable community, the immediate surrounding area of Mixed Road currently creates a healthy and sustainable lifestyle for the residents who live and partake in recreation care. This relates to another strategic priority of the township, which is the encouragement of active lifestyles and enabling people to pursue their passions. Installing this tower goes completely against the township's priority to preserve natural beauty and does not encourage an environmentally responsible community. There is not enough scientific evidence to suggest that cell towers emitting radio frequency EMF have no risk to human, animal, and environmental well-being. Therefore, we believe the locations of these towers should be carefully selected. The selection should not be based on convenience of existing roads or hydro services as it seems to be for this location. The current proximity of the proposed site to neighboring dwellings and recreational properties will undoubtedly negatively impact the well-being of the surrounding residents and visitors. We ask that you and all council members consider if a tower of this scale and location was built beside your home or land, how welcoming would you be of this plan? In the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan of 2022, the Community Safety Wellbeing Coordinating Committee cited that 59% of community safety wellbeing residents surveyed had a strong or very strong sense of community belonging. We believe that this type of proposal, if approved, will only diminish this statistic. In learning about this proposal, this will have a direct impact on our plans and decisions to build a residential home and raise a family on our property on Woods Road. This truly brings feelings of sadness, doubt, and defeat as new landowners. We have learned that we are not only the only neighbors in this position. This proposal, like others previous, has already affected and divided the community residents involved, and we request for this Rogers Tower proposal to not move forward at this location. The concerns that are being expressed are from people that live in the area and contribute to the community. Rogers Communications does not contribute to the well-being of the MD community. We have a deep connection with this area and land, and we feel that a tower located so closely to neighboring properties and residences is the wrong choice. Thank you for your attention to our concerns, and we ask for your support in rejecting this site proposal for the Rogers Communication Tower signed by Nicholas Schulis and Stephanie Schulis.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. And Nicholas, do you have any anything further you'd like to add?
I don't really. I just really wanted my views and my opinions noted in the letter to be heard. And to be honest, my letter covers all of those accurately. And they also cover it with the new knowledge that there was a recommended or a shifted location proposed there. So those still stand, and that's still my opinion, and believe that it was clearly stated in my letter. And basically, I think that at this point, with that knowledge and without quite being able to see some of the slides, it would just be a lot more meaningful for me to get a bit more perspective in terms of the proposal and hear that kind of firsthand, or be notified of it firsthand from those who are responsible for that. Other than that, yeah, just to reiterate and clearly share my opinion, I don't believe that it should be installed in this location that basically has such an impact on neighboring properties. And basically, taking away from the natural landscape that all of us enjoy and cherish in the valley. And I guess in this case, up on the hill. So I just ask that the council review all the community's concerns tonight, and do appreciate the chance to be patched in here via Zoom. And I would ask that this decision not be rushed, as it is an important one and it impacts many of us in the area. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. It's Sue. I just wanted to confirm that you were on the call, and that you, your comments, I believe you stated that you are still against it regardless of the proposal for the shift a little bit further back. Is that correct, Nick?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nick. It was well stated and concise and eloquent, so we appreciate your points and I thank you. We'll now
I do
move
have one
on.
question, but I think I'll save it for when the question period occurs, correct?
Yeah. I
Okay,
think
thank you.
actually, because we do allow a certain length of time for each delegation, if you wanted to ask the question now, that would be fine.
Okay. Yeah, so the question, as I was listening in and heard that there was some images being shared with the group, I would just ask that if there was any footage taken, or even if it's possible, like a drone footage of the elevation where either the top or the lighting of the towers will occur or would occur in the case, just to see like the actual sightline and visual impact that it may have, or disturbance to neighbors for things such as lights. So I guess the question is, has any of those images have been taken, or will they be taken?
Right, Mr. Belchamber, do you want to try to answer that?
Sure. No, no drone footage has been taken. It typically isn't part of the consultation process. There are large domes placed underneath any navigation lights that are required by Transport Canada, which limit the downward light spill to the adjacent properties.
Okay, that answers my question.
Anything further, Nick?
No, I think that's it for this at this time. Thank you.
Okay, again, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to our next delegation, which is Zelenka Shulis, and ask Zelenka to please come forward. Please speak right into the mic, and again.
I can usually use my teacher voice and the kids listen. Yeah, if I can go here, that would be great. Okay, how's the volume?
Good.
So far, good. So first of all, I would like to start reading notes. I usually can read it because I can talk all day and probably not say a lot, but I can talk for a long time. I'm going to need to just stick with my notes if that's okay. I'd like to begin by saying thank you for the opportunity to express my views and the opinions of my family, extended family, and friends residing off the Mix Road and Defoe Road with regards to the siting of the proposed cell tower on Mix and Defoe Road in Columbia. Our concerns for the site selection are many, but in a nutshell, we feel that the proposed tower is too close to the properties of our family and extended family members, and our 75 head cattle herd that pastures the majority of the year on the cleared pastures adjacent to the eastern facing property line, which is now proposed in Mr. Belchamber's slide to be 175 meters away from the eastern boundary, as opposed to the 140 meters that was suggested earlier this morning. The fact that the new proposed locations are being suggested at the 11th hour means that there is still room to negotiate a more optimum location. The decision, therefore, should not be made in haste this evening. Let me begin by giving you a bit of history with our experience with site selection and site cell tower placement. About 10 years ago, I believe before the creation of the current bylaw regarding cell tower placement, We petitioned against the installation of a 60-meter bell tower less than 200 meters from our eastern property line. We were also told by site specialists then that the new technology would replace the need for more cell towers and that landlines would no longer be in use. Today, as was stated, there are over 330, 360 new cell towers being erected in Eastern Ontario, with another 300 upgrades to existing towers. We have lived with the tower for over 10 years, and no one has come around to monitor or check on our health or safety concerns. I understand that Safety Code 6 is a federal concern and is the document that is being used to determine the safety of cell tower radiation. But I live to be convinced that someone is in fact monitoring or doing research into the long-term effects of RF radiation on our health. As we pointed out in this letter, in his comments, it's the priority and vision of the Township of Madawaska to have a healthy, growing, environmentally sustainable, and culturally rich community. The council has also stated in its 2014 bylaw that the proposed tower site should be situated in a manner which minimizes the effects on residents, lessens the visual impact, respects natural and human heritage features, and sensitive land uses to the greatest extent possible. This tower is being located next to a heritage farm that has been worked for over 5 generations. Fences have been mended, fields upgraded, cattle pastured, food raised. There is definitely going to be visual impact and health concerns in the placement of this tower. What does our definition of healthy include for the residents of Madawaska Valley? Is it only the proven physical diseases brought on by radio frequency radiation at close proximities that might lead to things like cancer, cardiovascular problems, migraines, and other physical ailments? Does it include mental health issues? I would say that now, as it did in the past, it has affected our anxiety levels. More importantly, the social and emotional negative climate that gets cultivated here on the hill. The fact that families were fractured 10 years ago by the siting of the cell tower too close to their residences, and the fact that the same fracturing of families is occurring today, means that a climate of dis-ease is apparent. In an effort to close the connectivity gap in Eastern Ontario, we are actually creating division, disruptive heritage sensitivities, and a hostile environment. I do not consider this to be a part of the Madawaska Valley's strategic priorities and vision statement. I'd also argue that it's not minimizing the effect on residents, but maximizing the disruption that the tower site is creating between families and community members. Regardless of the fact that we're not getting cancer or other serious effects at this time that we know of, we're definitely experiencing the anxiety, sleeplessness, feelings of helplessness, and our peaceful existence being challenged by this proposed site. Anxiety is a real thing today, like any other mental health issues around things like viral infections, climate change, unsettled forced migration. I could go on and on about the mental health issues. We, like the First Nations residents that lived on this land hundreds of years before us, take this role as caretakers of the land very seriously. Until the research is 100% proven to show cell tower radiation to be safe for residents and animals living in close proximity to them, we will be forced to monitor the health effects from both towers that will be under 500 meters from our property lines. Health Canada states that based on available scientific evidence, there are no risks to low-level radio frequency EMF from cell towers on human health. And also in quotes, it continues to monitor domestic and international research and evidence that if new scientific evidence were to show the exposure to radio frequency levels below the Canadian limits is a health concern, they would take action to protect our health and safety. This does not sound 100% guarantee to me, so I will continue and my family will continue to monitor and protect my right to safety. I know for a fact that the tower has contributed to the fracturing of families, its increased hostility between neighbors, resentments and bitterness, which can lead to physical ailments and sleeplessness due to lights blinking in rooms at night. One family actually had to move away because of this, and I did check this fact with the person, and they told me I was free to share that. I believe it is within your power to advocate for the health of your electorate. We look to you to be our voice. As a retired teacher, I know the pressure in meeting government expectations and high levels of achievement. I understand that Rogers has been awarded the contract to bring core wireless voice calling to 99% of Eastern Ontario residents and 85% of Eastern Ontario residents with high-speed internet access. This is an ambitious goal. I know the pressures and stresses involved in meeting the needs of students, and in your case, your whole electorate. The fact that you are still receiving information on the day of this meeting to influence your decision means that there is still room for discussion and compromise. My job was to bring students up to an A or B level of achievement. It's an almost impossible task, trying to get 100% of your class to an A and B. But I did it 1 year. I persevered. I had faith in the kids. I'm not saying it's always possible. It was just my luck, I think. I believe that you can make the grade as a council and do the right thing by not giving concurrence to the ongoing proposed cell tower sites on Mix Road tonight. There is still work to be done. Like you, my focus was on meeting the needs of a large majority of my students and to create a positive learning environment with a growth mindset. We are open to the presentations that are being admitted, have been shown us, to the opportunity to learn more. And we are not rejecting anyone's thinking about the need for a cell tower. We are concerned about the proximity to the residents. As was stated in the response to my concern regarding the disruption of this proposed site to family ties and hostilities, it was stated that it was not up to Rogers to comment on family situations and differing opinions on the merits of hosting a cell tower on private property. So we are looking to you to be our ears and to listen and hear to what we are saying. Are you able to advocate for us and even create a more specific and usable bylaw that gives us some solid measures to base our position on, like the actual distance the tower should be from a residence? There have to be other options, which are now at the 11th hour being brought forward, and we appreciate the movement. How do we ensure that by meeting the needs of some members of a telecommunications family, and that is most of us, that we're not damaging the lives of so many others? And I'll just say that it's hard to assess student performance in a class if the student doesn't show up and isn't there to do the work. So I just want to say that as a teacher. I don't think that moving the tower a few meters away from the proposed site is the solution for today. This recommendation should not be voted upon until we can, in my opinion, make the grade better. It is, in my opinion, still too close to the 3 full-time residences and 2 potential residents off Mix Road. I believe that there is another location that can be cited to reach our targeted goals and give us all top marks. On behalf of my family, and especially my grandchildren, the future farmers on the hill, caretakers of the natural environment, I ask that the council not provide concurrence for the proposed tower sites, all 3 suggested sites as of this afternoon, and that amendments be made to the current bylaw stating what a reasonable distance is, something in measurable terms. This has now happened not once but twice in our small hilltop community. It's within a kilometer of each other. We have 2 towers now that have split families. I need people to know that it is still happening.
That is an impact. That is a health concern for me living in this community. I don't desire to be living in a hostile environment where I know families are being disrupted. That's an emotional appeal, but it's okay, I'm entitled to that, and it matters. I'd like to close by saying that we have met as a Hill community, and all neighbors within a kilometer of the proposed property are in opposition to the site. We have also circulated a petition calling for amendments to the bylaw, which will establish what we as a municipality feel is a safe distance from residences and schools. We have about 70 signatures to date from the Cumbernauld community, and we're not sure some of the petitions are missing. I'd like to thank those of you that came to this meeting to become informed and to support the discussion. I suggest that further discussion and negotiation be had, and that the recommendation on the agenda not be passed, as there have been new developments today that have not yet been shared with the larger community that may have concerns. Some residents that were also not involved in the public consultation process should have been, like my son Nick, for example. By moving the tower away from one residence, you may be moving it closer to someone else. We don't want this to happen on our hilltop community. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Malenka. All right, our next delegation is Judy Cole. Judy?
Okay. Great, I think I'm gonna need it up. I'm sure they're not that short. Okay, right here, that's good, thank you very much. I too have made some notes here, and I'll try not to be too lengthy, but I do have a lot of points that I would like to address. I would like to thank the council for arranging this special meeting with an extended public forum, for listening to our concerns, and thank you also to all the people of the community who turned out to support us. Thanks also to Eric Belchamber for making himself available to answer our questions and concerns. And we hope that you will listen and seriously consider the options that we are bringing to the table as alternatives to the ones that have been submitted. I would like to begin by giving you a brief history of what has happened in the to the three properties that belong to the year-round residents leading up to this meeting today. First, the landowner came to our home a short time before we received our package to inform me that he had been approached by Rogers that they would be putting a cell tower near our home. I voiced my opinions against it and told him at that time it was too close to our home. This did not create a discussion with him. He was not open to it. On October the 5th, 2023, we received an information package in the mail from Rogers addressed only to my husband, even though I am a registered owner as well. We contacted the landowner and the other occupants of the neighboring two homes closely affected and asked to set up a meeting at our home to discuss the chain of events that led to this proposal and to voice our concerns about the impact that this would have on us as residents in very close proximity to the cell tower. Upon meeting with the landowner, we asked him to explain to us how this happened. We sat and we listened very carefully to his explanation and gave him ample time to present it. After this, we each took our turn in an orderly fashion to voice our concerns and ask questions and make suggestions And when we asked him if he would be willing to consider other options due to the close proximity of our homes, he told us the deal was already made with Rogers. It was easier and cheaper for him. And if we had brought him to this meeting to change his mind, we should just forget it. Our concerns meant absolutely nothing to him, and he could do what he wanted with his own property. Upon stating that, I didn't think it was fair that we should have to look at this obstruction and eyesore from our front window all the time. And he stated very coldly to me, then just don't look out your front window. This man is an absentee owner. And he does not reside here, but he simply visits for a day or two now and again. He is in the process of severing the house on the property with a hectare of land and selling it for a profit, put the tower on the remaining land as his cash cow, and go back to the city and contribute absolutely nothing to our community as he has done in the past 2 years. This deal is totally about money to the landowner, but not what it should be, which is improving the cell towers for the neighboring community. We, the residents of Mix Road, are left to deal with the mess that he's created for us. Now, I've done a great deal of research and study on the ISED, which is the Innovation, Science, and Economic Development, and the federal department governing the towers, and the EORN, which is the Eastern Ontario Regional Network, the provincial department in charge of the cell gap project, which established to provide more towers, thus improving cell phone coverage to some areas where service is poor. The project was also supposed to use existing towers to share, repair, and build on, but we haven't seen much evidence of that happening. Towers have been erected everywhere and anywhere that they can get land to put them on. While this is improving cell phone service for some, it is causing anxiety, myself included, and the breakdown of the quality of life in many communities in the rural area. There has been little or no regard for the proximity of the towers near residential communities and homes. This brings us to our problem. The original proposal places the tower within very close proximity to our 3 homes located on Mix Road. This also involves people who are residing nearby, such as the Schulis family, who use the farmland and pasture their cattle at the same site, and whose son has just purchased land adjacent and nearby to the proposed cell tower site. We have voiced our questions and our concerns in our letters to Eric Belchamber, the representative for Rogers. Many of the answers received were not satisfactory and gave very limited response, if any. Under the document of CPC 2-0-03, created by the ISED to govern the tower procedures, placements and notifications within it reads, and I'll read some to you. Within this document, under the process overview, section 1.3, the broad elements of the process are as follows. Number 3, undertaking public notification and addressing relevant concerns. Number 3, using the existing infrastructure, which means sharing. The first point is consider sharing an existing antenna system, modifying and replacing a structure if necessary. Now, also under 4.1 Land Use Authority consultation, the ISED believes that any concerns or suggestions expressed by land use authorities are important elements to be considered by proponents, which is Rogers, regarding proposals to install or make changes to antenna systems. Unless the proposal meets the exclusion criteria outlined in section 6 of this document, proponents must consult the land use authority, which is the municipality, on the proposed antenna system prior to any construction. The aim of this consultation is, and in the last point it says, address reasonable and relevant concerns under section 4.2 with both land use authority and community they represent. I also want to point out under public notification, section 4.2, in number 3, under section on the point number 1, proponents must ensure that the local public, the land use authority, and ISED are notified of the proposed antenna system. As a minimum, the proponents must provide a notification package to the local public, including nearby residences, community gathering areas, public institutions, schools, neighboring land use authorities, businesses, and property owners located within a radius of 3 times the property height or the tower. I would like to now read a letter from the property owner that is adjacent to our property. She lives in South Carolina and she's a cousin of my husband's. From Dana Blosser. She has addressed this to Sue Clatt. I was informed by another landowner, a family member, regarding the proposal of a wireless tower on Mix Road. As a landowner on Mix Road, I did not receive any correspondence from Rogers Communications regarding this tower. My address is current and on file with the Township of Madawaska Valley, as I received the property tax notice timely and I paid them timely. I don't understand how this tower can be allowed without proper notice to the landowners. I also don't understand how this tower can be allowed so close to residential property. There are much better suited areas away from residential properties than this particular site, and from the aerial view on the proposed map, this is quite obvious. Why choose a site so close to residential property? Towers such as what is proposed are an eyesore, will create a disturbance to residential surroundings, produce cancer-causing radiation, will create property depreciation, and the list goes on. I am a proud owner of this land, and I fear that the tower will destroy all this land and what it means to me. I also feel for my family members who would have this tower located so closely to their home. I urge the Township of Madawaska Valley to do the right thing and turn this proposal down from Rogers Communications. This is my last page. We are asking council to look at our proposal that we are offering in view of my previously mentioned oversights by Rogers and their poor proposal offered. Now, the proposal that was offered this afternoon, the excuse given was that for not going off of Rogers or Defoe Road was that the trees had to be cleared. Well, my husband is 83 years of age this January. He's cleared trees all his life and worked in the bush. So is Martin Lipinski, who was up here. So is Paul Schultz. These are bushmen. So you can't tell them what it takes to take trees down. And this area, no matter where you go in that area, they know that parcel of land like the back of their hand. So you can't fool them by telling them this particular area going off the full road, it can't be done because of tree clearance, because that whole section in there is nothing but cleared trees to be cleared. So whether you go in there or whether you go up in off of Mix Road, it's all trees that has to be cleared. Now, using the original proposed site as a starting point, start on a much more pronounced right angle than what was given in the second proposal towards Defoe Road. So when you go into that first site that was proposed, you go off on a sharp angle to your right and keep going. Continue at this angle until you are within 100 meters of the landowner's house at 1948 Defoe Road. Road access can then be easily made from Defoe Road to the tower, as well as hydro lines that can be easily accessed, decreasing the expenses for Rogers, which seem to be a concern for the landowner and seem to be a concern for Rogers. Mix Road will not be used then for any access purposes, and the tower will be further away from the residents on Mix Road. Now, we're asking that we're able to have a representative for our committee inspect the final installation along with the municipal representative to ensure that the agreement has been fulfilled according to the final proposal as approved by this municipal council. And as much as I know there are people here tonight in our community who do not wish to have a tower on this property at all, I feel that most of us here are being realistic and we're trying to compromise and reach an agreement, and we're acting in good faith because that's what people on the hill do. We're not going to roll over and die. We're not going to go away. We're going to see this thing through, and we're going to get what we need on the hill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judy. At this point, before we move on to the next delegation, I just wanted to ask Eric if he'd like to respond to Judy's comments on the process protocols that she deemed not being met.
The address for data was provided, and it was a North Carolina address. And I erred when I didn't put sufficient postage on it, and it was returned to me. It was identified to me within a handful of days by Dana through Sue, and I subsequently immediately sent her a digital copy of the public notification package with my sincere apology for the oversight of having not sent it to her North Carolina address. When it comes to the items that I said deems to be reasonable and relevant, you're right, Judy. There are a number of things that proponents have to address, and two of them that don't have to be addressed and are specifically excluded from the consultation process include concerns pertaining to property values or impacts to them, and health impacts, and whether or not safety code 6 should be reformed in any manner. So those two items are specifically excluded by the federal government for the consultation process. And that's nice, that's not logical.
That's laughable.
That's part of the CPC section 4.2.
That's not right.
Doesn't make it right.
Doesn't make it right.
All right, can you just, all right, I'd like to keep moving on, and Eric has given his answer. There will be time for questions after. So I'd like to move into the last delegation, and that's Martin and Maureen Lipinski. I see Martin here. Oh, Anne Marie, yes.
I like it. And, that's at all. Pardon?
Sorry. Okay, thank you. So everything you were prepared to say has already been said. Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we'll move into questions from members of the public. And again, if you can come to the microphone, identify yourself and where you live. And please keep, again, just like Maureen indicated, if it's already been said, please don't rehash it again. So we'll open the mic up now. Anyone looking to say anything? Okay, thank you.
My name is Denise Close. I'm a physician in the area, and my family live on this road. And my question to you is, if you know that people in the area have such strong opposition to having a cell tower in their backyards, why are you continuing to pursue it? And that goes against all common sense.
Got to Jim Hyatt, the former Hastings County CAO and the Aboriginal League of Eastern Ontario Regional Network Cell Gap President. To address Jim Hyatt is sitting to my left, and he is the Aboriginal Lead with the Eastern Ontario Regional Network Cell Gap Project. And he's here to speak to the benefits that the Cell Gap Project have, the wider scope of the project itself. Thanks, Eric. Maybe just to be direct to the question, the objective of the project is to close the gaps in the coverage across East Ontario, including here in the Commonwealth area. East Ontario Regional Network is not a provincial agency. It's not a federal agency. It's actually a municipal, not-for-profit organization set up by the 13 counties of Eastern Ontario, including, of course, Renfrew County. The current chair of the East Ontario Board of Cox, which is the political body that set up EOR about 15 years ago to try and improve broadband services and now cellular services. Now, Peter Ewan is the chair of the EOWC currently. So our overall goal is simply to provide better access to cellular coverage for residents and for people who travel here or travel through the community, whether they're it could be cottagers or it's just people moving through the region to another location. Public safety is an important piece of this project. And that is in order, we want to make sure that when we close the coverage gaps, that if people need to make an important call, whether it's 911 call or in the future when ambulance services need better connectivity, that it will be there. So it really is, the goal is just to provide better access to service. We're making use of existing towers. The project has about 600 towers in total throughout Eastern Ontario. About 316 are existing Rogers towers that are already on the landscape, but are being improved with new radio equipment, 5G capable radio equipment that's part of the project. We have to build about 260 plus new towers in order to close those coverage gaps. That's why we have to build one here, because there's the coverage. We can, it would be great if we had different technology that was available to provide the service, but we don't. It is based on a tower infrastructure. So we're doing that. We're also, and again, this is part of the instruction from government, senior government, is to co-locate where we can on existing towers. We would like to be able to build as few towers as possible in order to end up improving the coverage. So there are about, I think, 76 co-locations that will be part of the project throughout Eastern Ontario. So where we can get on a bell tower, for instance, we will, and we are. And sometimes those towers aren't in the right location in order to close the coverage gap. Sometimes it's not tall enough in order to be able to provide the necessary coverage. So we're trying to do all of those things in terms of the overall project. Just a little bit of history. We started out at the direction of the Warden's Cox in 2014, trying to put a project together
to try and improve the connectivity on the cellular side for the region. It's taken us a long time to get to construction because we have to go through all of the approvals process in order to get federal and provincial funding support. And then we had to go and find private sector partners. We did a public procurement process to try and find a partner, technology partner that Rogers had the best bid. Bell also bid on the project, but the Rogers bid was deemed superior. So that's how we ended up with Rogers as our technology partner. Each one of the, just for information, each one of the sites that we have to build have to go through an archaeological stage 2 assessment process. We also have to do with our First Nations partners a natural heritage assessment on each of the sites, and we've been working with the Eldon, so they walk First Nation very closely in the consultation team, working with Kirk Lake First Nation that represents William treaties, First Nations communities, and others around the landscape of Eastern Ontario. It takes between 18 and 24 months to site a tower. I go through all the approval processes like I'm going through tonight to get to construction. We have a project deadline, the end of 2025, that all of this work has to be done. As Eric said, it's about $300 million worth of work that we need to get done. So we are under some constraints in terms of our funding arrangements in order to get the work done. But nights like tonight are really important for us. We are interested, of course, in trying to find the best sites that we can within the constraints of the work that needs to get done. Probably no perfect location anywhere we want to build a tower, unfortunately. That's just the way it is. People have strong opinions, and we appreciate that, but we're trying to do the best that we can, ultimately for the future of this area and Eastern Ontario total. So thanks for allowing me to do that.
Thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate you being here to offer your advice and expertise. I just would like to say before we move into the next question that I wanted to mention just something about EORM, and you know, this is something that basically all of Eastern Ontario has got together to support, and with the goal of providing about 99% coverage of cell service to the area. And my understanding in talking to Eric is that wherever this final tower goes, this would be our last tower in Madawaska Valley that would be required. And I think that's important to note too. But you know, we have the towers up, and this would really be the last one we'd be committing to or having to commit to. Anyway, I'll move on to the next question, and if you please identify yourself.
My name is Leon Schweg. I live on Craigmont Road in Cumbernauld. I'm just curious, we were approached by you guys as well. We have 50 acres just up on Mixed Road. You approached our neighbor, they said no, Madonna has said no. We said, sure, let's take a look at this. Wanted to put it right in the middle where we already had it here, but I had a trailer. I said, well, why don't you put it to the right, because I want to sever lots, put it right in the middle, it's not going to help me in terms of development down the road. Didn't want to move the trees, said it's off the table. What I don't understand is I put it back on the table for the sake of the community, for the sake of my friends, and family people here. If you'd entertain that, but I guess my question is, why would you put everybody through this when this was an option to begin with?
There's no people around.
There's no people around or nothing, 50 acres. Don't get it. My next question is, we talked about co-locates. We talked about co-locates. The towers that you're putting up, are they going to be co-locates too for other carriers? We will. So we got more traffic than just Rogers going in and out.
And it's 5G.
They could be if the Rogers.
And for people that don't maybe understand all the technicalities here with Wi-Fi or 802.11, or any of the regulations, or 5G and the rest of it, don't ever forget that in terms of internet access, we do have choices. This is strictly cellular, so don't think for 1 second that people that are living in a rural area can't get Starlink or can't get other options for internet access. This is strictly cellular. And there are some other options. I'm throwing this back out there and again, just for the community's sake, I'm not totally sold on it, but if it helps the community, I'll entertain it.
Thank you, Eric. Would you like to comment? Sure. The way that Rogers operates, site acquisition process is through site acquisition consultants like myself. There are a small handful of us through the province and country.
Well, actually spoken to
I don't recall, but another site acquisition person had approached Madonna House and it didn't go any further. We are really constrained by the search area for any given site. When it comes to the choice for connectivity, the choice is great, and Starlink is a great option for rural communities. But for the traveling public, it's not a viable method of communication. And the stated goals of the Northern Cellgap project are to ensure that 99% of the traveling public, who live, work, and play in various rural communities, be able to at least place a phone call. And it's kind of comparing apples to oranges when it comes to connectivity. It's a vital, integral part of being able to be connected and be able to place phone calls when it's required.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the audience? If not, I believe we do have one from, oh, sorry.
Someone ahead of me, go ahead.
No, please, Jamie. Oh, please go ahead, Bob. Again, Bob, if you could identify yourself and say where you live.
My name's Bob Gray. I've lived at 1934 DePaul Road for 50 years. I'm here to support all my neighbors. I'm on the fence. I understand the need for technology in the future. I also understand the properties involved. I know probably as much about George's property as I do about my own. And I've been trampling all over it, like I said, for 50 years. And I think there are other spots on George's property to put the friggin' tower. And I think the big push here is to get it as close to existing roads to keep it cheap. I'm saying, I'll go for the tower as a neighbor because I won't see it. But 97 acres, I think, are there. It doesn't have to be where it is. It's, you know, I sat in Donnie's living room a couple of weeks ago. And looking like that through his front window and his kitchen or his dining table, you're gonna see the tower. It's not something I would do. But 97 acres, and it's mostly flat there. It's a bit of a crest. And you can put it anywhere. There's a funky place there, but I'd be happy to help you, Mark, Paul, we'd all help you to show you other spots. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Jamie, did you have a question?
Sorry, Bob sort of took, I would say, but it seems to me in your discussion, you keep trying to say we need cell towers. But I haven't heard anybody here who's directly affected, or myself perhaps indirectly affected, who said we don't listen. It's where you want to put it. Now, you've moved it 3 times in discussion. So I assume that it doesn't have to be in one specific place to be the most efficient use of your power. It can move around. So how about considering the most efficient in terms of off the whole road? It's gonna cost Rogers maybe a few more bucks, I really don't care. They got lots of money. So moving it off the full road, running your hydro from there, you would have access, you're on a main road, which is plowed very well. No trouble getting in and out, and the amount of happiness you could have here would increase substantially. So it seems an easy question. It's a few more bucks, move it somewhere where we want it, and everybody's happy. So I don't see the problem.
Paul? Please identify yourself to where you're living. Thanks.
My name is Paul Schulz. We live on 2248 Full Road. I'm the fellow that has the cattle right next to where the post tower is. My question is, if this is a public and private endeavor, why, as taxpayers, do we not have a say as to where these towers go? Particularly when it comes to people that live close to them, people that live there permanently, and also to stress the point, on my eastern border, I sit in my living room, I look at the bell tower. I sit at the kitchen table, I look right out. The red lights are flashing during the day, the white lights are flashing at night. I go to the top of the ridge of my property. I look out over Conroy's Marsh and the York River Valley. I see 11 towers. And then I go on top of the hill above my house and I look at 9 towers. And you're proposing to put another one close to our property, close to where I am living, and also close to people that live there permanently. Would any of you want that on your property? Would any of you want to look at that site? Or would any of you want to look at that type of scenery? So, back to the first question. Why do we not have a say if we as taxpayers are funding it?
I'm gonna ask if Eric or Jim want to comment on that at all. Thank you very much. It's a very valid question. The land use authority process is a process for taxpayer input. Ultimately, it's the local council where we're at that makes the decision on whether to support or not. So I think the short answer is it's through your council that decisions are made. And we're here to find out whether council will support it or not. Thank you. And are there any further questions? Yes, please come forward.
Yeah, Jerome Yarskevich, 1813 North Craigmont Road. My question is that Bell has a tower about a kilometer, maybe even less than their proposed site. And it's only 60 meters high. Obviously, Bell and Rogers are competitors, but in this instance, make a deal with Bell and increase that tower to 90 meters.
Eric, would you like to comment on that?
Thank you for your question. It's simply not possible to change a 60-meter tower to a 90-meter tower. Co-location on that existing bell structure would be at a height of about 45-ish meters of elevation, and simply wouldn't achieve the stated goal that we want to solve that project. And it's still in areas of coverage deficiency and potentially areas of coverage overlap. So unfortunately, it's while a novel idea, it's simply not realistic.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further questions? Right, I think we do have one on Zoom, and I'll ask our deputy clerk to bring that one up.
Oh, do I still have the chance to speak there?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
I just had one that's more of a follow-up question to the councillor or statement, is that if this is the last tower proposed for the MB area, I would say the challenge is like, why not make it the most the tower that's the most well thought out, and the last one that actually is, like everybody else in the community was saying, is worked with the members of the community to either establish a proper location or to find a place that impacts or affects the least amount of people. And that's more of a statement rather than a question.
Thank you.
I don't know whether everyone did that or not, but that was contribution. I think it was about the last hour when my public input onto that town. All right, with that, it looks like there's no further questions, so we'll move on in the agenda to the next section is questions from council members or comment. I'll start with, well, I see Councilor Lewis' hand up.
All right, welcome everyone. We've had a great discussion here. I know I've been at this table to a few towers and that. Do we need more? That's the big question. The question that I was going to ask is if this piece of property was not available, say the person that owns this said no, where would Rogers go? Where would we decide? And I'm saying it is the gentleman here that said, you know what? I have a piece of property, probably a good location. We wouldn't be in this position, but really, where would you put if this piece of property was not available? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Councilor Lewis. Any other comments from members of council? Councilor Michael.
Your North Star. I've been scratching notes here and listening to everyone's concerns. I'm going to express some concerns. Not sure after this portion of the meeting of council says what individually we'd like to say. And then we're going to go right into a recommendation that's pre-done and vote. So that's a concern as well. But some of the issues that I'm hearing here, now we do have a bylaw. It was established in 2014. I've had a couple of people in this room tell me that they asked if there was a bylaw. They've been told there wasn't, but there is. So let's be all clear that there is in fact. It's pretty wishy-washy. There's nothing specific in it. I think before getting into all of the issues, I think this municipality and this council has a responsibility to update this bylaw. There's things that are not identified in here that should be with respect to minimum separation distances, addressing public notification and timelines. Because I've heard here now tonight that there's been 2 adjacent property owners that were missed somehow, did not receive the information. So that for me as a councillor is completely unacceptable. I've heard Judy here state tonight that she has received official notification on October the 25th. Judy, is that October the 25th of this year or last year? Yeah. October the 5th of this year. Okay, so we're talking really in terms of weeks here now because it's November 27th. So I think the timeline on residents receiving notification and the timeline of this meeting is far too tight. I'm hearing things here tonight for the first time. We're not experts at this level of government in the ins and the outs and the safety protocols and every other level of government above us and etc. And I think the purpose of a public meeting is for people to be informed with the information they need. I think
calling a public meeting for the residents to express all of their opinions and beliefs to their local council members that they vote in to represent them is important. And then I think there needs to be a period of reflection, not an instant decision the night of the meeting. So I've got a concern on the process that's going to occur here tonight. I've heard some really interesting comments here tonight. I'm not hearing a mass cloud of people saying ban cell phone towers forever, we don't want. What I'm hearing is the neighbors willing to work with a large corporation to have a tower, but a tower that works for all parties, whether that's Eorn, whether that's Rogers, whether that's this particular property owner who I don't see in attendance here tonight, and the neighbors. I'm very happy, and I thank everybody here for that, because I'm actually surprised. I thought I was going to hear a lot more objections, so I think everybody here is being very reasonable in what they're asking for. So thank you, everybody in the room, for that. What I would like to see as a councillor is this process not just come to a quick vote tonight. I'm concerned that from the time I received this information, there's been another deal offered and even another deal like as quick as a couple of hours ago this afternoon. So my mind is boggled at this point. We're trying to look at distances. I've got a photograph. I can't tell. I don't have a measuring. It's not to scale. A quick presentation. I've walked the property. I've grown up in Cumbermere my whole life as well. I think I agree with the crowd. I think here that there is alternatives to this property. It is, we're talking just shy of 100 acres of property. I think the insistence on having a road come in off Mixed Road to access it, I don't see that it has to be insisted on that. You can enter this property from anywhere along quite a hefty stretch on Depot Road, which is a county power maintained road. County can give you an entrance permit for that. So I can go through pages and pages of things that I, as a councillor, am feeling very uncomfortable with based on hearing this information, literally some of it just tonight. I think I was interested to hear, Leon, that I know you have property up there. I had no idea that that would be an alternative. I'm not a technical expert. Maybe there's a reason it won't work. Yeah, I think it was maybe my dad's original homestead. Way back in 1847 or whatever it was. But I do know the property. I'm not going to throw that in the loop to say maybe it wasn't suitable for a technical purpose. I don't know that. But I thank you for offering that. And again, I don't see what the rush here is to make a decision tonight. I'm sorry, let me just get his name here. Sorry, is it Jim? Jim Pine? Is that Jim? Is that your name, Jim? Sorry, I wrote it back on pages. So Jim, as the representative of Eorn, you have stated that the project goal of Eorn is to be completed by the end of 2025. Did I get that right? Yes. Okay, so we're just entering into 2024, so we're not in any mad rush to hit a deadline before funding is revoked. Am I interpreting that correctly?
I'd say no, you're not. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, it takes between 18 and 24 months to get to construction. This is early on in the process. The land authority request is early on in the process. So my concern is that if this gets delayed, we'll be out of time and out of money before we can get it constructed. So it does take that long. I'm not making up the timeline. That's what it is. And so, yeah, I'd be concerned.
Okay, well, thank you for answering the question. Again, what I'm seeing here is very large rural area. There are thousands and thousands of acres on that hill of undeveloped land. So there's a particular piece of property which just happens to be surrounded by several homes. And it will greatly impact these residents. I think what I'm hearing is the residents are willing to work with you. And Bob, you know, came back this afternoon very quickly with a change of site plan. So I'm not prepared to voting approval tonight of a continuance letter. On the condition would be work with the local community and get a better site that everybody can live with. Or table it tonight and we carry on with another meeting in 30 to 60 days from now. I realize Christmas is coming in the middle of this, but we can't do anything about that. Or otherwise, personally, I'm just gonna say no, and we can go right back to drawing board and start over again. Because I'm very willingness in the room. I'm feeling there can be a deal made. I don't think rushing it through. I don't see where taking a couple more months, or whether it's months or weeks, to work out an arrangement that's suitable for the majority of the residents that are up there. And thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Micah, and Councillor Blank.
Thank you. I'm wearing a mask because my husband has COVID, so I don't want, not for any other reason. I'm welcome here tonight because I feel right at home, because we feel right at home. Everyone has. I think there's been a lot of research and a lot of work done by many people, by people in the community as well as people from the government agencies. And we as council members depend on you people to come to us so we know how to make our decisions. There are issues, there are concerns, and yes, our bylaws need some work. We're just getting started. I have met, and we have met with people in the community and discussed it. We have all been toured by Judy Cole and Babinski, and I've seen the area. And my concern is, as well as being so close to those homes, I'm glad to see that there was movement, and there is movement twice. And I think we need to see a little bit more movement. What I would like to see is, and I have a question, what I'd like to see is it moved a bit more, and I would prefer, and I've stated this earlier to other people, that I would prefer to see the entrance off of the full road and not off of Mix. I think it would answer a lot of questions and give a lot more clarity to how we feel, and allow you still to do your job and to get it done efficiently and effectively. And I know money is not a concern for anybody here other than the government, which we're not going to go there. But I think that we need to recommend, I need to recommend that perhaps we rewrite our motion, although it does say conditional. And when we say conditionally, that we can add a thing to say we would like to see if it can be moved more appropriately to a different entrance and to provide for it. We all know that we need these things in our community. We all know that for health and safety for everybody. And I think that by moving a conditionally thing with some questions that can be answered, I think that's important too. Again, I thank you for this process. You've done great, and I really appreciate that. I also would like to know, what is the schedule for the build once established?
When it comes to your first question or comment having to do with access from the Bow Road, we could likely accommodate that request.
Oh,
We could likely have it so that it's significantly closer to the Bow Road, coming off the road. When it comes to the construction timeline, it's typically 4 to 6 weeks. It involves, once construction starts, excavating for the base of the tower with guide anchors, pouring of the foundations, letting them cure for roughly a week, and then from there, staging the tower, dressing it, and then in place, stacking it essentially. We're trying to find a compromise and work with the community as evidenced by already a couple of suggestions of moving. And we hear you. We'll do the best that we possibly can to shift it as close as possible to the Bow Road and as far away as possible. But I would like to just take a quick moment to address some of the health concerns that have been raised when it comes to livestock or people. And the fact that these towers pose out no risk whatsoever to livestock, to humans.
That is
Safety code 6
Excuse me, please let Eric continue, thank you. So safety code 6 is peer reviewed and updated frequently. And has a 50 times margin of safety built in for what could potentially cause health effects. And when you think about a 90-meter tall guy tower, if the antenna is 90 meters up in the air, the amount of RF exposure to bases of power and surrounding areas is a fraction of the allowable threshold. We've got these antenna systems in both rural and urban environments. We've got them on apartment buildings. We've got them throughout various communities. And the sending of this one in particular is no different than hundreds of existing towers that are across the countryside. So I'm just trying to put a certain degree of measured input into those concerns. That we hear you, it's not the first time we're hearing these concerns, but I would hope to simply do my best to put those to rest. And then we can look at moving it closer to the full road and then it's from the flow in the hopes of listening to the community and being there for us to allow this really vital infrastructure to be allowed in the community and provide a living voice for it. Thank you, Eric. Councillor Olszewski.
Thank you very much. First up, I want to say thank you for everybody to come out and spoke tonight and ask all the questions. It was very informative. And thank you for the members from Rogers for coming and giving the presentation. Now I know that a cell tower, sorry, it's a touchy subject, right? You know, it's the necessary evil, unfortunately. You know, everything relies on it. Everybody has a cell phone now. It isn't. You know, everything relies on technology from healthcare, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You break your leg in the bush, well, you need cell service, right? It's just, that's the day and age we're in. Now, I also understand that it isn't a nice thing to be looking at out your window, right? Which is why we're here tonight to discuss it. Now, I agree with Councillor Micah as far as I don't feel that tonight is a night to make a decision on this. Because I believe there's a lot of information that was brought to the table here tonight that needs to be thought about. It'll be rushing through, right? And as far as it goes, are there better locations? I'm not an expert, right? I don't. These guys know where it works, what it doesn't, right? Do I feel that the access off of the full road is important? Yes, I think if it's being accessed, why do you want to access it off of a township road when you can access it off of a freshly paved county maintained road, right? That's what makes most sense to me. And the other thing is you're talking about a 100-acre parcel of property, which I believe is 100 acres is 3,300 feet long, if my memory serves me correctly, right? So there's no reason why we can't shift it to the back end of that 100-acre parcel to get it away from the homes that are close to the full road and mixed road. Thank you.
All right, I do want to say something, but I'll let Councillor Lewis, he has one more comment to make.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, very good discussion for sure. I think that the community has offered some help for you, Mr. Bellchamber, and maybe that is one way of, making this possible to happen here, because we're trying to make everybody happy. And, a self-service, yes, we absolutely need it. And I never heard anything out here, just like everybody else on the table here said that they don't want the service. But let's find a spot with the help of the community that is affecting. And I think we've got a solution. Thank you very much.
Yes. Could you please use the microphone just so we can.
So, on the acres that you're looking at right now, the 100 acres, do you have line of sight on all 100 acres? Between towers with the backbone, line of sight, tower, anywhere on here?
I'm not sure of that.
So you're making all these moves and suggestions of 60 meters this way, 100 meters that way. And you're saying that you'll still have line of sight. Okay, so if there's other places for line of sight, and you determine that as an afterthought twice after getting some there's a kickback, anger, disappointed people. Why would we not investigate where we could have put that furthest away from the residents in the first place and still maintain line of sight and coverage?
If you don't care about health,
Is it just finance? I don't know.
or property values.
Thank you for the question. When citing a tower on a property, it's reliant upon the willingness of the landowner. And keeping costs in mind as we're the stewards of a $300 million project. We do try to find the most reasonable spot to put a tower to begin with. And based on feedback from the communities, where possible, we can adjust things to satisfy some of the concerns that we raised. It will rely on the willingness and cooperation of the landowner to determine the subsequent location of the property. But from the get-go, we are bound by constraints that involve costs and construction costs.
So that the people that affect their property costs, their property values?
Bound by construction costs, as any industry and any commercial interest is, and we try to do the best we can. And when we hear feedback as we have, and where the property is suitable to fit the location, where it is flat, where there aren't steep slopes or water courses or natural heritage features that would preclude the movement of the tower, then we can investigate that and try to work with the community to ensure the service is provided.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to say that, first of all, I appreciate everyone coming out tonight and the interest in the community. Cell towers are always controversial wherever you put them, but we also rely on them these days, and I think as Eric has said, particularly when we're traveling, we want good cell service, and we almost expect it these days. We have supported EORN and do support and recognize the importance of their whole project. But tonight I've learned a lot too, and that's from the local community. And what I'm seeing that really impresses me is that there's not an anger or a no, we don't want it anywhere but not in our backyard. This is more about, we know there's better spots within that property. And I'm hearing people say they will go out and show a better location for it. And that I really appreciate, because that's the type of constructive work that helps us all as we move forward. And nobody wants a cell tower near their house, but at the same time, they're necessary. So I think what I'm hearing, I really appreciate the crowd. I appreciate Mr. Belchamber from Rogers being so, I mean, tonight he has basically said that the entrance doesn't necessarily have to be on Mixed Road. Twice in discussing things with him in the last week, we have made changes that Mr. Belchamber has agreed to right away. I'm now hearing people think there are even better locations, and you know, when I look at the resolution we have on the table, and I'm going to ask our CAO to sort of confirm what I feel perhaps they're said, but the recommendation is conditionally provides concurrence, and then it indicates that the tower base be a minimum of 200 meters from Mixed Road and 200 meters from the east facing property line. So to me, that doesn't pin it down to a specific location on the property. It just means it can't be any closer than that to the residents that exist. So in listening, I'm thinking, Okay, we've got some great ideas. We've got people who who say they can find a better location on that spot. And I'd be interested in exploring it and seeing if we actually can. But we do have a resolution to bring forward, and I'd like to ask the CEO if by approving this resolution, are we confirming the spot? Even if it's conditional.
Having heard everything, there's a couple things I want to clarify. So first off, as it pertains to the bylaw and what the municipal role is. So I will refer to part of the Schedule A, which following information shall form part of the consultation process for the establishment of the telecommunication facilities. So the municipality recognizes that for the most part, the development of telecommunications facilities are regulated and approved by the Government of Canada. The Township of Madawaska Valley Consultation Protocol for Wireless Telecommunications Facilities was established pursuant to the legal authority provided with Industry Canada, Circular CPC 2003, under the regulatory control of Industry Canada. The protocol has been developed along the guidelines of Industry Canada, with minor deviations to provide for greater notification to ensure local concerns are addressed. So I did want to bring that forward. Having said that, what I've heard at the table is great willingness from Rogers to make some more amendments. I don't think it's fair I don't think the council has the right to make them choose a different location. I think it is Rogers' responsibility to bring forward amendments to council, recognizing what they've heard here this evening. So I would propose with the willingness of council that instead of approving the recommendation, as was requested within the consultation summary, that council consider the following. And I'm willing to make amendments if council wants. Sorry, I have a lot of notes here as well. Motion would be that council table the decision to provide concurrence for the site selection C8616 at this meeting and request that Rogers provide a revised submission at an upcoming council meeting with consideration of access off of the full road in lieu of Mix Road and consideration to extend further the distance of the base of the tower and provide council with this report. And at that time, the concurrence letter would be voted on.
Thank you, Sue. So that's a revised resolution that would bring it back to council. We're not turning down the site, but we're looking at are there better opportunities within the site to bring it forward, because we do want to keep moving on this, but we do want to make sure it's a site that everyone feels is the best site on that property. So with that, I will ask the CEO to, Councillor Micah.
Okay, I'm liking the direction of that. There's just a couple of things that we could possibly include in that resolution. What I'm not hearing is additional public consultation with the group that's here. We're tabling it. Rogers is to come back to council at another council meeting, but what I'm not hearing in that resolution is that we are requesting that Rogers work with the community members that are here tonight, that have spoke tonight, and work on an alternative location on that property. And or investigate the offer by Mr. Leon Schwig of an alternative piece of property that's not all that far away. Because those are two really, really important things that I don't know how we capture in the resolution. And that these people then have the opportunity to see the new plan and have an opportunity to have some time to think about it before we're just to pass it at another council meeting from now.
I would suggest that, Rogers, and Ewan Rosas are aware of all of the comments that were received from the public. They have raised some questions. If there are clarification points that, Mr. Belchamber or Ewan require, they could reach out to those. I do not see that there is another full public meeting that would be consulted. May I ask Mr. Belchamber, like, is that something that I need in a resolution? Or you see this?
Lost the number of resolutions. Roger doesn't tell us what our.
Well, no, but I just mean, they tell them. Yes, I.
Mr. Belmont, to be clear to respond.
Certainly. So following ISA's default protocol, municipal consultations to occur in 120 days. That's the legislative timeline involved. Based on the feedback that we've heard from the community, we are prepared to avoid a significant time and expense to have a survey prepared with a new location in conjunction with the landowner, in consultation with the landowner, to identify a suitable location that is set well back from the properties on Mixed Road, both to the north and east of the originally proposed location. I propose that we tuck it as close to the full road as possible, with an entrance off of the full. But bear in mind, we do require approval from the property owner. And what I would suggest is that we provide an updated survey when it's available, and that it be at one of the next council meetings to be granted first based on that compromise. But we're not prepared to go through another 30-day consultation period. We're familiar with the public feels and how they feel about things. We're doing our best to compromise and find a solution that works for most people. And I'm probably good at that.
No, I do believe, Rogers is listening tonight. There's 120-day period. I think they will take it in, and they are willing to look at another site. They're not going to start looking at other properties at this stage, but certainly they can look to find the best location based on the public input they're receiving tonight and the comments that people are saying, and try to work with the community to make sure this is the best location. Councilor Blank.
You said most of what I wanted to say. I think we have heard and we understand, we've seen it in writing here tonight. And I think now the process must continue. You must allow us as council and as the organization involved in trying to set up this cell tower within this locality. I think they've heard us. I think we need to work together. We have heard you, and I think it's time to finish it up, get it moving on so that we are not coming out of this. You are not leaving here tonight being unheard. We heard you. I heard you. And I believe what you have done is extremely important to our community. So I think now we need to move on, and as the mayor has suggested, that they come ahead and they propose it at the next council meeting, and we'll deal with it at that point in time. Did you have something, and I saw you jump there, Shelley, just a second, before you take a moment on this. I think that you can discuss it and we can move on. And I think it's important that we do our civic duty.
Councilor Micah.
Thank you. I just wanted to sort of reference your 120-day consultation period. What's the final day? What is day 120? I don't know this information. That's the line.
I don't know the date off the top of my head, but it would be 120 days when the application is filed with Madawaska.
Luke, you've got your computer. Do you have the application date when it's filed?
I believe it's September 13th.
September 13th. So that September, October, November, December, 3, 6, 9, 12. So we still have a month, correct?
Yes.
Okay, this is what I'm trying to figure out. So rushing it to the next council meeting, which is less than, well, it's 2 weeks away. We don't necessarily have to rush it to that council meeting either. I don't see how you pick a new site, do the new plans, have an opportunity for this group of people to even be able to see that before it gets onto one of our published agendas in which we're gonna vote on it. So I'm concerned about the tightness of that time. That's why I'm trying to figure out times.
If I may through the chair, the motion said an upcoming council meeting, not necessarily the next one. And the reason I'm suggesting a council meeting is because when it comes before council with a request to vote on granting concurrence, then that at that point, if there is still a question, then we still have the opportunity to bring that forward.
Mr. Mellencamp, certainly, we would envision that during a January council meeting.
No, and I think it gives us plenty of time to work with what we've heard. Councillor Blind.
Yes, sorry, I shouldn't have said next meeting and future meeting. Thank you.
All right, so from what I've heard tonight, and it's been a very good discussion, and I'm really happy to hear what I heard, and yeah, I do have a motion. We want to go ahead with this? Okay, we do have a motion that so we do have to deal with it, even though I'm hearing other discussions, so I'll ask the CEO to read the motion.
I'll try and put some of the notes to repeat what I said. Through the chair, that council table the decision to provide concurrence for the site selection C8616 at this meeting and request that Rogers provide a revised submission at an upcoming council meeting with consideration of access off of Defoe Road and New Mix Road, and consideration to extend further the distance of the base of the power of the tower and provide council with their final proposal for concurrence letter to be approved or reviewed.
All right, so we heard that, everyone's clear on the motion, Councillor Blank.
Yeah, you said their final proposal?
Oh, no, like their submission, sorry. Oh, their submission.
Take the word final.
So many.
All right, we will amend that, and with that, could I get a mover? Councillor Blank,
I'll start.
seconded by Councillor Micah. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried, so we will continue the discussion. I guess what we're looking at is in January. So we appreciate all the comments, and we certainly listened, and we appreciate the input, and thank you very much.
We need a confirming that. We also.
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, we do have to read the confirming bylaw and adjourn the meeting, so I'll ask the CEO to read the confirming bylaw.
Thank you to the chair that the bylaw 2023-78 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council, the corporation of the Township of Madawaska Valley at the special council meeting of November 27, 2023, be ready first, second, and third time, and finally pass this 27th day of November 20.
Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Shula, seconded by Councillor Olszewski. All in favor? That's carried. I need a motion to adjourn, and it's moved by Councillor Blank, seconded by Councillor Micah. And so we are adjourned at 8:01. Thank you very much again, everyone.